what I did today is I spent some time on these 5 devices that are modulators. Okay, so in the world of any kind of synthesizers, a modulator is something that changes something about the sound over time. So like it's like, you know, a synthesizer sound that goes like wow, right? The thing that made it go wow at that speed is a modulator. And what it's doing is it's controlling one or more things in that synthesizer. So it's sending a signal in, and those things are responding by changing how they're making sounds. And so Ableton Live, I think, is special software in the music world because it gives you a very modulator-friendly environment to play in. And so here's one example. So I'll play a drum loop. Let me turn off this filter first. I'll play a drum loop. Okay. And I'll map this sine wave LFO to the filter frequency over here. We see that moving with the wave on the side. And then we can listen to that. So you can see this sine wave LFO is modulating this filter effect, and that modulation is making us hear more high stuff or hear more low stuff with how it's set up.
Yeah.
It's like that. High frequencies, now we hear the bass. And so that's cool, and it's nice, and it runs smoothly, but you don't always want it to run smoothly. Like maybe you want it to sound like it's stair steps. And so then I made this thing called the Modulation Stepper. And so if we map this smooth LFO to its input, this stepper, what it does is it's set up so that every 1/6 of a note, it just takes a snapshot of where is that input. So the blue line is the input. That's the sine wave that we've assigned to its input here. It's modulating that input. And then every 6th note, it says, well, where is that input? And I'm going to just hold that until the next 6th note, and then I'm going to look at where that input is.
Yeah.
And so you get the stair step. And so if we map that, now we can hear. So you see that filter moving in jumps rather than in smooth motion. And so we can like speed that up. So we get more steps, or we get less steps. Now it's just quarter notes where it's moving. You can have it synchronized to the tempo or not. Your choice. Roll for smoothing. So you can smooth out those steps if that's the sound that you want.
Interesting.
Okay. It doesn't only have to modulate a filter. You can have that stair step modulate anything. Like we can open this up and we can actually map up to 8 destinations of its modulation. And so maybe we map it to the, how about the left-right position? So then if we listen to this, now it's going to be moving left to right as that wave is going up and down.
Whoa.
So the next one is this thing called Modulation Lerp. And Lerp is short for linear interpolation. And what it is it's just a way to constrain the movement of some input. In this case, we have a really kind of a fast LFO. Let me slow that down so it's a little less frantic looking. So this sine wave here is assigned to modulate this input knob. So we see that knob going back and forth at the same speed as this wave is going up and down. And all this device does, the only thing this device does is it then constrains that input to a range that you define with these 2 knobs. And so if I move this knob up, I'm moving that aqua colored line there up and down. I can move it all the way down. So we're letting that input occupy that space. And then I could bring the top down. And so let's just play the audio and listen to it, how that sounds. So anyway, so that's just one way to control your stuff. And then you can do fun stuff like this. So that's the Modulation Lerp. The next one is Modulation Math. And what this is we have two inputs, input A, input B, and we can add, subtract, multiply, or divide them. And input A and input B are numbers between 0 and 1. So here it's like,
Yeah, I see it down there.
So then you can just do the simple math equation on it, and then this is the result of, in this case, multiplying these two things together. So we have a sine wave coming into input A, and we have this steppy wave coming into input B, and we're multiplying them together, and this is what we get. So this is that times that. And then so you can get these weird shapes then. And so if we listen to kind of what that can sound like. So in this case, the sine wave is oscillating once every measure, every 4 beats. This steppy thing is not on the tempo of the song. It's on its own tempo. So each of these answers is going to be different a little bit because this isn't going to be a perfect multiple of your own song tempo here. So, and then, doing the filter again. Okay, so that's just another pure utility thing. It's just do some math on two signals. Okay, here's one called Modulation Delay. And a delay in music stuff usually means echo. So when you see, I should have called it Modulation Echo, but it's too late. So what it is it has, again, like the other ones, an input where it receives a signal. In this case, it looks like the input hangs out at 0 and then jumps up to 1 and then back to 0. And that's what this orange line is. That's showing us what we're receiving on the input. You see that between here and here.
Yeah.
And then an echo effect in sound and music, basically you have control of like, well, how much of that original sound is going into the echo? So that's what this send knob is. And then you have a rate, which is like, how quick is the echo? Is it really fast or is it slow? And then the feedback is how much of the sound that you just played do you use again on the next time? And so, like if we have a really low feedback, we're just going to have the original in the first echo, or the original first echo. But if I increase the feedback, now we start to get some echoes off of that. So you see how the orange is the source signal, and now the blue is the echoes that we're creating from that little blip of signal.
Yeah.
I could even make them sharper. And then so we could hear what that sounds like. So I'm going to turn the echoes all the way off. We can turn on the sound. So that's just using this signal to control where this filter is. Now if I start to send some of that signal to the echo maker, so it just lets you play with, really easily coming up with some modulation variations. You have kind of your central theme, which is this shaper device here, which lets you just draw any curve. And now we'll see that come in there. Anyway, so it just lets you kind of play with a different way to play with creating modulation shapes. That's the whole point of this one. Okay, now this last one, it's a little brain teaser. So let me set it up for first demo. So let's hear. This is our drum loop that we've been hearing the whole time. And what correlation is what we're talking about is how similar is the left and the right speaker. If you imagine they're both playing exactly the same thing at exactly the same time, they're in perfect correlation. And what happens is that sound sounds like it's coming from halfway between those two speakers. That's how you interpret it. If the speakers are doing perfectly opposite things, so one of those speaker cones is pulling back while the other one is pushing forward, then that's perfectly out of correlation. And listen to what it is. So sit right in the middle here. And what I'm going to do is I have one button here that'll just flip instantly what the right speaker is doing. And what it's going to do is instead of pushing the air out towards you, it's going to pull the air back.
Okay.
But the other one's going to be doing the opposite. So the speakers are working like this, opposite each other. Okay, listen.
Whoa. It kind of sounds like it's in my head.
Uh-huh.
In my brain. Like headphones, almost.
It's amazing how... So, you know, people say your ears are sensitive to up to 20,000 hertz, but your brain is sensitive up to the megahertz in terms of the timing of signals coming from your ears and the phase of what's called the phase. So if one is coming toward us, the other one is going away from us, you say that's out of phase.
Yeah.
Or if they're both working together, we say that's in phase. And so your brain knows the slight phase differences between your ears, and that's how you have this 360-degree spatial kind of thing just out of two ears.
Wow.
Okay, so what this correlation modulation device is showing us, this is graphically showing us the correlation of the sound at this moment. And music has a variety of correlation because you've got like the kick drum here. It sounds like it's coming from the middle. So that's a very powerful correlated sound. And those bass frequencies carry a lot of energy. And so it's powerful in contributing to the correlation. So when you have those kick drums kick, you can see in the graph it's kind of higher in those moments. But then you have other sounds like that snare drum where there's like a room reverb on it. So it's a spread out kind of a noise. So to get a spread out kind of a noise, you have to be out of correlation. So the purpose of this device is just to use this correlation measurement to modulate things. And it was just a curious little excursion I went down. I've never heard of somebody doing that, but like, why not? You know, it's a property of sound, a very important property of sound. And so can we use that as a modulation source? Oh, I wanted to show one other demonstration before we get into sound demonstration. What I'll do is I'll put a reverb on this signal and watch the correlation as I give it more reverb, and listen to the sound as I give it more reverb, and how correlated does it sound as I give it more reverb. Okay, so right now there's none. I'm going to turn it up with this knob.
As you increase it, it feels more spatial, like perfectly out of correlation.
Right. So it gets that wider feeling, which now we know has to be a low correlation or out of phase, out of correlation. Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of fun. Like you have this control of, the more spacious sound is giving me a lower value here. So that's interesting. We can play with that. And so what we can do is send the sound through the reverb, measure the correlation, and then map that correlation to a filter. We've been using filters. And I have it kind of weird where if the correlation is low, the filter is only giving us the high frequencies. So if you imagine, the low correlation stuff is the wide stuff, and that's usually the high frequency stuff. Okay. Let me smooth it a little bit. Okay. So we can hear it with more reverb, less correlation, only high frequencies coming through. No reverb, much higher correlation sound, filter is in the lower frequencies. I think it's kind of neat. I think it worked out kind of cool. Like it actually seems like something you could use. It's not just some academic curiosity. Like I kind of thought it might be when I first set out making it. Like I don't know if it could be musical, but I feel like it kind of is.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's in like your headphones or whatever you're listening to.
Yeah, and then you can really hear that better, right? Because very few people in the world just go sit in the dead center of two speakers.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so those are the modulation devices that I paid some attention to today. The thing that I wanted to add was this. This is the new feature of Live 12, is to be able to switch between these two modulation modes. We've been using this one called remote, and what that is like the value that we're sending out, that's the orange line, is just completely the position of this dial. I can't grab this knob and change it. That knob is completely under the control of this thing. In this other mode, what I'm doing is, this is saying, well, just change it plus and minus 12%. And so wherever the knob is, it's going to be like, whatever, plus or minus 12% on that. Mm-hmm. So you can just play with this stuff. Maybe there's cool sounds in here, then you resample. Now you made a cool loop that you could use in a sampler or some other context.
Totally. Neat.
Yeah, kind of fun. So that's some different source material. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just vibe out.
Yeah, it makes a really cool sound.
Imagine a lot of effects, a lot of modulation stacked up. Like you can make some pretty neat stuff with these little building blocks. Yay, back to the basics. Yeah, so modulation. Word. Do you get it? Modulation now?
Yeah.
And then so these little utilities that they're just little things you plug into, and then they do some little doodad, and then you can plug them into other things. And you can work differently than you can with the standard devices that come with Ableton Live.
Mm-hmm. And there's like the visuals are very clear. And
I think
it makes perfect sense.
Illustrate it. That's one of the funnest things for me, is to figure out, well, this was a fun one, the delay one, right? Kind of differentiating, this is the orange is the signal that I got, and then the blue is the echoes that
Yeah.
are coming out. Like, I think it's neat to see those
To see
two.
both, yeah.
And not just have them in, a single orange line, and then you don't see the detail of like what's this and what's that. So
Yeah,
I like
totally.
portraying that. So, yeah. Fun little utilities.
Yeah.
The end.
Yay!
Okay, don't forget, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Tinkle the bell.
Tinkle on that bell as quick as you can for more updates on this lit channel.
Peace out.
Peace.
Out.